Members of the jury, you have now had time to listen to arguments that were made by both parties in this case. As the representative for Frankie Malone, I will be giving you the final affirmations as to why my client is not guilty to the charges present. I would like to start with counts 13 and 16, which will be discussed together. The accusation in count 16 implies that Frankie, flying in jump seats equated to $125,000 in stolen property from Pan Am Airlines, is inaccurate due to the fact that these jump seats have no monetary value, nor are they available for purchase. The prosecution evaluated these values based on the cost of coach tickets, even though they are two completely distinct items. Count 13 proposed that Frankie evaded tax payments due to the stolen jump seats. Since we have established that jump seats have absolutely no value, there is no way that Frankie could be evading tax payments. Frankie's curious and ambitious personality made him stand out. He was offered the jump seat, and he took the opportunity to fly in the cockpit with the people he admired the most. Next, we'll be considering count 14. And this count, the prosecution alleges that Frankie worked as a healthcare professional at NOLA Hospital without the proper licensing. If we look at forensic examiner Simon Dillard's report, he indicated that Frankie, quote, did not in fact sign or authorize anything, and there was no substantial evidence pointing to the fact that the supposed crimes were committed, end quote. Frankie's position at NOLA Hospital did not put him in the position to make any decisions or act as a provider in any way. Due to these facts and the results of the forensic examination report, we assure you will find Frankie not guilty. Next, we will move to count 15. This count proposes that Frankie was working as an attorney without the proper licensure. As indicated in our evidence, Frankie did take the bar exam and he passed it with flying colors. An intelligent young man studied for months so he could pass his exam and start his practice. Under the terminology of the statute, Malone did not commit any crime as he was licensed to practice. The issue here was that Frankie's application to take the exam was approved. He did not intentionally commit any crime. Last, we will discuss charges 1 through 12, where the prosecution is proposing that my client cashed and forged checks through Pan Am airline payroll. Their main witness, Lisa Smith, says that she saw Malone around the airport in his uniform, talking to passengers in the terminal. She said that his mannerisms were charming and welcoming. Yet, Lisa Smith never saw Frankie hand in a check at her station, nor has that been confirmed by any member of the staff. In fact, she never saw Frankie with a check ever. Now, you may be thinking, what about the toy plane that was found in his apartment? Let me tell you a story about how a little boy is now a teenager. Don't you think that a teenager who admires pilots and their success would own something that will remind him of it? Think back to when you were a child and someone asked, what would you like to be when you grow up? Some of your common answers might be a fireman, a mailman, a police officer, or a pilot. Frankie wanted to be a pilot, but without his high school diploma, he never could. So he collected memorabilia, like you might do for your favorite sports team. He even dressed up like one and sat on the free jump seats that were offered to him. You heard the prosecutor claim these checks were created by a con man, and we agree. A con man did create these checks. We even stipulated to the report of the document of fraud examiner. With these dreams come gifts, like a uniform that he wore, or other items that might make you feel like your idol. Given these circumstances and the lack of evidence for the accusation of Frankie cashing the payroll checks, it is clear that Frankie was the victim of identity fraud, and someone is using his name on the checks. We would even agree that a clever con man created those checks. Do you think that this young man looks like a clever con man to you? A con man so clever to use his own real name to create the checks? Or does he rather appear naive, young, and unsophisticated? So enthusiastic that he was the perfect mark of a sophisticated con artist. Anyone with the knowledge of con artists would know that Frankie presented the perfect mark for their attack. Since he stuck out in the airport, Frankie became the victim of identity fraud. His well-known name and his presence was used by a special breed of sophisticated con men, grifter to profit. Someone else used Frankie's name to create and cash false checks and frame Frankie for it. Don't let them get away with it. Before you deliberate, please remember that in order for one to be convicted of a crime, they must meet all of the following elements. First, the mens rea. This is the person's knowledge or recognition that their actions constituted a crime. Next, the actus reus. This is the actual act that they committed. If both of these elements are not present, the person cannot be guilty of the crime. Our argument is that in counts 1 through 12, 13, and 16, both the mens rea and the actus reus are missing. In counts 14 and 15, the mens rea is missing. Before you all deliberate, I would like for you to take one more look at Frankie Malone. This teen has been through more trauma in his short life than many people experience. When he was young, his father encouraged deviant behaviors. Once he got older, his mother started having an affair and asked Frankie to hide it from their dad. This conflict grew and grew until his parents decided to get a divorce, and they asked Frankie to choose who he wanted to live with. This experience was so polarizing that it led him to seek acceptance elsewhere. All he ever wanted to do was make his father proud by getting a prestigious job. Since he was not old enough to be a real pilot, he did the best he could and surrounded himself with the people he looked up to. Some kids might turn to deviance or violent crime when they face turbulent times, but not Frankie. He took all of his hardships and did his best to make everyone around him feel joy. As Lisa Smith said, he was well known at the airport because he set that image for himself. Sleeping in the jump seat was safer than sleeping on the street, and we know you will see the innocence in Frankie. Thank you for your time.
And record. Can't record.